thoughtful ideas and suggestions for guests and topics.
Events, programs, and
Welcome to this segment of Dialogue Houston. I'm your host, Lawrence Payne. To our regular viewing audience, welcome. To those joining us perhaps for the first time here for HCC's TV Dialogue Houston, we can be found now every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. and on Saturday afternoons at 3 p.m. To our regular viewing audience, we want to thank you for joining us. For those who are joining us new, this is HCC's Community Affairs, Public Affairs show here on HCC, now in its 26th season. Thank you always for your wonderful ideas for guests and topics and subjects to be covered on future segments, and particularly your great comments of the shows that we've aired thus far. This is a new normal for us at home. This is the home edition of Dialogue Houston. And for this edition, we are launching this week a special edition of Dialogue Houston. Today, we're calling it Living in New Knowledge. Living in New Knowledge, where we'll be featuring every week wonderful aspects and work of our great Houston Public Library. On a regular basis of the library and opportunities for you to have new knowledge that awaits you at your Houston Public Library. Serving the citizens of Houston since 1904, it has truly been our link to the world. You can have access, as always, free of charge, to the great resources of the Houston Public Library. All you need is a library card. A wonderful library called My Link. The library card in this card and your PIN number will get you almost everything you need at the Houston Public Library. If you do not have a card, you may do so by going online and applying for the electronic version of the card that is valid until August 1st. Call 832-393-1313. The online is www.houstonlibrary.org. And I have to say that really with your library card, you can really access many things that you probably have never thought that you could do through a library system. Joining me today from the Houston Public Library are Mary Wagoner, the Youth Services Advocate. She will be followed after the break by Edgar, Senior Manager of the Houston Public Library, but we're going to start with Mary. And actually, Mary has been on Dialogue Houston before, so I should say, welcome back to Dialogue Houston, Mary. How are you?
I'm great, Larry. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Great to have you join us today. So let's just dive into this. What kinds of programming can we look forward to for the teens and tweens going forward here at HPL?
Right. Houston Public Library has many very exciting events coming up in May, June, July, and August. You're invited to join us at www.houstonlibrary.org for free and fun virtual programs. So right now, we're doing all virtual programs. So everything you see out there, from story times for the little ones that are offered in English, Spanish, and Chinese. We're doing STEM activities and craft activities. So there's lots of things for all ages going on. Right now, for the teens and tweens, we have the Get Graphics contest going on. So they can work as individuals or in teams of up to 4. They contribute their artwork, their dialogue, and their original plots. They submit it to us. Prizes will be awarded to the top 3 entries. So we're very excited about that. Now, coming soon during the summer, which starts the registration for the John P. McGovern Foundation Summer Reading Program, starts May 1st. Registration goes all summer. The actual program begins June 1st and ends August 15th. It's a very robust program this year. You're going to see a lot of your favorites from the story times, crafts, and STEM, but we're also bringing back many of your favorite performers. So you're just going to see the virtual program instead of the live program. It's going to be, I think, pretty amazing to see how your local performers have come through and brought really high quality works to you. And we're working with quite an array. So there's going to be a lot for content that's not just entertainment, but also educational. So you're going to learn how to do things this summer. One of the things that we're doing, especially for tweens and teens, is creative writing. So there's going to be short story workshops, poetry and prose workshops, journaling workshops, which in this day and time is very, very important because journaling is a great way to document what's going on in this time in history. And so as a teen or tween, you're journaling something and you read it 20 years from now and historians are talking about it, you're actually having that first person experience and account of what happened. And so that would be something that, maybe at some point we'll go into our oral history collection or into one of our other special collections. We're also going to be doing zines this summer. I don't know if you know what a zine is.
No, tell us, please.
Okay, so a zine is like a magazine. It's a virtual magazine. And so we're going to have some workshops on how you're going to learn about the different types of zine and then how to create your own. And so we're hoping that we're going to make this very interactive and that you will share those zines with us so that we can share it with other customers.
Mary, I might add, I think that a lot of parents who've had time with their children this last few weeks, more than perhaps they wanted to, have enjoyed some of the things that they've pulled online from the Houston Public Library. I think they've become some teens and tweens themselves again. I have actually helped with a little homework assignment with some friends of mine's children. I actually love, my favorite is the tumble books.
Oh, I like tumble books too.
I've kind of fallen in love with the tumble books, but there's just so much. I mean, it really is kind of mind-boggling, the resources and the volume of resources that are available.
Well, let's tell them a little bit what tumble books is.
Please, go right ahead.
It's slightly animated picture books, but it also has beginning readers, beginning chapter books, and some basic chapter books. It also has a few comics, and there's also some games and puzzles in tumble books. So there's a lot going on in that one resource. The thing I love about tumble books is that as the story is being read, it's slightly animated, and then the words are below, and it's, remember following the bouncing ball in songs? You're kind of following the story that same way. So you're hearing it, you're seeing it, you're hearing the words pronounced correctly. And so it's that great overall experience for any child learning to read. And it's one of those things that it does download to your phone, so you can take it anywhere.
It really is a fascinating tool. I mean, you get you get hooked on it. I have to admit, you get hooked on it. And it's a great learning tool, and because it engages you, it's very engaging in the process of the learning.
Kids love it.
Well, adults love it too. Let me just I think we're on to something.
I think so. I think you mentioned helping kids with homework.
Yes.
And so I want to talk about BrainFuse for a second.
Please.
BrainFuse, you go in using your library card and find BrainFuse on our website. It's under Learn and Explore. So you find that. It's also under our digital resources. So you can find it several different places. Go in, click on. It's going to ask you for your library card and a PIN number. And then you're going to go in and you can select whether you want a tutor, whether you want to go into a writing lab, whether you choose to go into Leap and Skill Surfer to get some diagnostics on, say, how you're doing in math. And then they will tell you, basically prescribe some resources that you can use to improve in specific areas. It's very robust. There's also eParachute for slightly older children who are trying to figure out how to explore careers, what might interest them, and there's interest matches with careers that they do. And there's also practice tests. So there's practice tests for the STAR exams, ASVAB, ACT, SAT, all of those kinds of practice tests. The main thing, though, is the online tutoring. So you go in, you match, you choose the language that you want the tutor to communicate with you in, whether it's Spanish, English, or French. Then you choose the topic, and it could be math, science, English, or social studies. And then you choose the grade level. And once you get in, there's a white screen and you start typing. It's kind of like being in a chat room. You start typing what you want. There's also places where you can diagram because, as you know, with math, you have to diagram a lot of things out there. So there's places where you can draw out what you need to do, and they will help you do your homework. They will not give you answers. They will guide you, as any good tutor will.
Exactly, right.
Yes, and how to think your way through to get the answer.
And I've stood over the shoulder of a student using that program.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it engages you, it's interactive, it's learning in a way that allows you to really, in some ways, learn better than if you had a human being standing in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
because you're able to follow and really kind of watch it as it changes with your input. I think
Yes.
it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool.
Right. And all of the tutors actually have at least 3 years teaching experience. About half their tutors have master's degrees. They're all within the U.S. The tutors all have undergone a seven-year background check. The tutors are very vetted. They randomly go in and check on sessions. If a parent wants to download the chat, that can be downloaded afterward. You just ask for the transcript immediately at the end of the session. And so that allows you to also go back and review, because sometimes I've been with a tutor and while I was talking to the tutor, I felt like I understood it. And then, 10 minutes later, I was like, oh, what do they say? Had to go back in. And that's one of the things too, is each session is 20 minutes, but you have an unlimited number of sessions.
Right.
So you can go back, you can ask for that favorite tutor. You can go back as many times as you need. And it's for basically second grade to early introductory college level. And so we're talking about taking students all the way through AP classes for chemistry, physics, all the tough ones.
Let me ask this before we run out of time, Eric, for this segment. In the world of library sciences going forward, and you've been a librarian for many years, and you understand how much the opportunity for the business has changed and grown.
Mm-hmm.
And do you see this kind of becoming kind of standard as we go forward? We've learned a lot now about what we can do online and how we can switch over to doing a lot of this online. I think it may continue even after we get past this pandemic.
Yes, and I'll tell you one of the reasons it's been a good experience for us to do this. If you're a parent and story time is at 10:30 at the local library, you would love to go to your local library and see it in your neighborhood library. Mm-hmm. But if you can't make it and your child has missed that opportunity, when that story time is available online, you can catch it anytime. You can watch it anytime. And so it's wonderful for the parents and caregivers who are working, who can't enjoy story time with their children because it's through a work day. And now at any time, they can enjoy that experience together. And the best app is a parent's or caregiver's lap.
There you go. Mary, I want to thank you for this segment of being with us. I've always enjoyed working with you and your knowledge base about what we do and how we do it at the Houston Public Library. And I said this to you before, and I love your title, Youth Service Advocate. You know where I'm coming from. The advocate part of that title, I really, really love. And she really does a great job of keeping us informed about the needs, the understanding, and how we approach and deal with our wonderful teens and tweens. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry, for inviting me to Dialogue Houston.
All right. We're going to take a small pause and break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Edgar Fuentes, who is the senior manager at the Houston Public Library. And he's going to talk with us and share with some of the work the library has been doing with other city departments as we try to all get through this COVID-19 crisis together. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back.
This is Mac. She's ready to build herself a house and a business. But first, she's building her resume with a construction certification from Houston Community College. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
I don't know an industry today that doesn't rely on some amount of coding to run their business. Coding is the 21st century equivalent of the English language. And our particular flavor of this is the iOS Coding and Design School. And Apple's been very supportive and in fact joined with us to roll out the start of this Swift programming initiative. So it's a great opportunity to combine creativity with science and technology, contributing to this app economy.
Meet Wally. He's a single dad. He's also a role model for his 5-year-old son, going back to school with him. This time, Wally's going to Houston Community College for a second career. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
Welcome back to this segment of Dialogue Houston. If you're with us for the first part of the show, you know we had a fascinating conversation with our good friend Mary Wagoner, a wonderful youth service advocate who really laid out all the wonderful things you can do now online from our Houston Public Library. Joining me now is Edgar Fuentes, who is a senior manager at the Houston Public Library, and he has a wonderful perspective on a lot of things that the library is doing. So welcome, Edgar. First of all, good to have you on.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me on.
So let me just dive into this real quick here. What are some of the things the Houston Public Library are doing during this time with other city departments addressing the COVID-19 crisis?
Sure. So in addition to the things that Mary talked about, we've developed a very robust virtual library. Now that the Houston Public Library's website is now the front door to our customers, given that they're all at home. So we've built a robust library, a virtual library. We've also partnered with the health department on various projects. One of them, we've worked with them. 4 of our team members are assisting with COVID-19 research. We've also been asked to help in the city secretary's office. But one of the biggest projects that we've embarked on is collaborating with the health department to have them train over 50 staff members to answer calls regarding COVID-19 testing.
You know, when you mentioned the health department, and the library and the health department has been doing a lot together with the call center and other things that we've been doing, it really becomes this understanding of how all the city departments work together in a collaborative effort to really bring to bear the resources that the city have, because we're all in this together in more ways than one. But the library's role has been very important because we have people and we have access to be able to share our people, which is really an important piece of this work, is it not?
Absolutely, yes. And so what the health department has done is they've come to us and they've, again, trained us on the calls, call taking and call making, and I'll explain that a little bit. They've worked with other departments as well to help set up about 10 phones at the central library so that those phones could then be tied to the COVID-19 hotline. So when a caller calls to find the nearest testing site, one of our librarians is actually helping with the call to get them to the testing site. In addition, we've also got staff members that are working on voicemail callbacks. So if initially we had just a couple of sites where customers could call to get tested and they had to be 65 and older and be symptomatic. At some point, it became open to anybody, regardless of the health profile or age. And so with that change meant the high volume of calls that the health department was getting. And so that's where we stepped in to help with, again, the calls, but also with assisting with those customers that weren't able to talk to a staff member initially and left a voicemail.
Have you seen the work change and we've pivot to adjust during this crisis within the library? You mentioned to me kind of offline that there have been some very creative, innovative things that we've done to really look how we do this. Tell us a little bit about some of those other things you've been involved with.
Yeah, so we've found a lot of skills that our staff have that we weren't able to tap into. So there's things like video editing skills that some of our staff members have just sort of have flourished. And so we've been able to do a lot of our story time filming at the different sites across the system. And then we found a system in place to be able to get those on our website again for customers to be able to access. There have been a whole number of other skills. We've created a database internally called HPL's Got Talent. So our staff members have really been able to use those talents in many different ways.
I've seen some of those clips. We have some budding stars here in our midst, do we not?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in order to show staff that it can be done, I also stepped in to do a story time myself. So I'm hoping that at some point that'll come on our website.
And story time is such a wonderful piece of the puzzle. Everybody enjoys story time. There's something magical about just sitting, reading a book, and having people engage and actually listening to the words and getting into the storyline. I think that's really the key to this.
Absolutely. Storytime, I think, is for all ages, as you mentioned. Some of our children's resources are also for all ages. We've also got HPL databases that we're trying to feature through HPL database videos, because part of the challenge for us is to really get the word out to our community about the myriad of resources that we have all available for free on the library's website. That they may not know about, just because it's such a content overload, if you will, of all the wonderful things that we offer. We've also got really talented staff members that are crafty, that if they don't come to that particular library and see that very crafty staff member, they miss out. So we're filming a lot of these amazing crafts that our staff can produce to, again, try to get those out virtually through the library's front door, the website.
Yeah, I want to just second that. We have some very, very talented creative who create some interesting artwork and all kinds of things that you got to wonder, okay, what imagination brought that to bear? But they're all great. I mean, they really are very creative and innovative to work with the population of citizens they serve.
All this is on our library's website, so it's houstonlibrary.org, where we invite your viewers to check out all the wonderful things that we've compiled for them.
So in the next, let's put a little vision on for a moment in crystal ball. The next couple of weeks going forward, what do you see some of the next areas and things we're going to have to dive into?
So again, we're diving currently into crafts, HPL resources, STEM videos, story times. We're constantly expanding to add podcasts, and so it's an ever evolving thing. We're just always looking to tap into a new area to try to serve as many people as possible.
Well, Edgar, we're about out of time. I want to thank you very much. But remember, it all begins and starts with getting your library card.
Absolutely.
You can't do anything, you can't navigate the system without getting your MyLink library card. And as we've mentioned before, it's available by just going online, houstonlibrary.org, or calling if you're having any problems or questions at 832-393-1313. Edgar, I want to thank you for being on this segment of Dialogue Houston. We look forward to following you and the work that your creative team does as we go down this road together. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Some closing comments and thoughts here. The Houston Public Library is a great resource in our city to take advantage of. It is your public library. It is a place for citizens to come, not only in time of crisis and need and this pandemic, but also at other times, as it has been over the years, a great resource for this community. It is also the piece where we talk about civic engagement, where we engage our citizens in reflecting on who we are as human beings in a democracy and how we work together, thrive together, grow together, and learn together. It is living in new knowledge, which helps us to inform ourselves to be a better human being, to be a better citizen, to be a better consumer, a better client, a better constituent, all those things we talk about many times here on Dialogue Houston. And so we're going to continue to feature in this new segment, this wonderful special edition of Dialogue Houston, featuring the Houston Public Library under the banner of Living in New Knowledge as we go forward. So as we close this first segment of Dialogue Houston in the new format of being kind of at home and doing it in the era of this pandemic, we will continue to bring you great stories and great storylines and great guests to help us to grow in this process. One last plug, important, if you have not done your census, if you have not done your census, if you have not done your census form, please fill it out. It is important to the future of Houston and Harris County and Texas, but particularly for the dollars that the census bring into Houston based upon the numbers of population and proportionality that we are assessed. So we're going to close with this thought. It is about and has always been an educational process. It is a process that talks about, very simply, education that starts with information that we take and turn into knowledge, knowledge into education, education into wisdom, wisdom into action, and do something. It is about the action, about the change, about going forward to help, to serve, at least to last the loss of our society, of being that true servant that gives you the chance to give back when you learn what needs to be done, when you learn how to do it, and you learn who can help you connect to do what you want to do in that service to humanity. And so we close on that until we see you again for Dialogue Houston. Until then, be well, be safe, and as always, peace, power, and love.